So I want to talk today about how I get in and do the ribbing or Under Armour or cabling or whatever it's called in here, because someone commented and wanted to know how to deal with the fine detail stuff. Basically, for this Under Armour type area that you get on a lot of Infinity heavy infantry, what I like to do is essentially highlight broadly over the whole thing as if it's one piece, and then come in and cut in those little details. That means that I get a consistent kind of highlight over the whole area, as well as the fine little glints and things like that you get off certain edges. So basically I've just gone in at the moment and just blacked it out. So the whole area in there is just basically painted black. Then I'm going to go in with a bit of a colour to bring out the cabling. Now I'm going to go with emerald to give it a little bit of colour in there, as well as just lightening it up. So I'm basically going to put some emerald down, water that down a little bit. Add a little bit of the black in there as well, because I don't want it quite that bright. And this will help kind of blend it in a little bit easier. I don't want to go too far, I do still want it fairly emeraldy. So I'm just going to paint in along the line of where I want that brighter area to sort of be, or the coloured area to be on the model. I'm not worrying too much if I'm filling in some of the detail in there at the moment. I just want to broadly define that I want it lighter there rather than fully black. I'm actually going to come in and cut this back later as well, so it's not a final highlight at this stage, and the placement doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Now, in terms of getting precise paint work on the model, I guess there's a few tricks to that as well. In terms of making sure that you brush in the right place, obviously some of it comes down to experience. A lot of it comes down to bracing on the model. So I actually touch my model quite a lot while I paint it, which can be bad because you can rub the paint off. But basically I have to brace my hands fairly close to where I'm working. Otherwise I will, shake around all over the place, just like anyone else. Now, once I've got that broad sort of slight coloured highlight in there, I'm going to go back in and highlight that further with a brighter colour. And I'm going to go back with the pale grey blue and basically just touch over the same sort of areas but over a smaller amount of space. So I'm just going to go in and basically touch the areas I want brighter still, concentrating on the sort of top surfaces. Again, I'm brushing into the bit that I want brightest, because where I start brushing it's going to naturally not be as bright. Just to get that brighter spot in there. Pin under the arm here a little bit. And you can see that, I'm certainly still painting into the creases and things. I'm not too worried about that at this stage. So this is where we're at the moment. I've basically just highlighted along those ridges with the emerald colour, come back in again with the brighter highlight in there as well, and that gives a really nice pop in there. But we're not really defining those individual segments on those ribbing sections yet, and we've probably gone a little bit further than we wanted to in the overall look of it. I want this to be fairly dark with a kind of metal glint to it. So at this point I'm going to bring in a little bit of glaze medium and add that to the black as a flow improver, just so that I don't have to be as super precise with my brush work. Basically just a little bit on the brush, straight into the black there, and I'm going to water this down a little bit as well, because I want to be able to put a few thin coats in and have it flow into those creases a little bit more. Okay, you can sort of see what the flow improver does. Sort of moving the paint around a little bit more, and so it'll naturally kind of now fall into those creases. Now while I'm applying this, I'm going to run the paint into the crease, the main crease there, along the bottom edge to kind of shade in that area. And you can see some of that paint will sort of draw up into the little cracks and things in there as well. In between those segments a little bit better. I find painting fine areas like this is a bit like painting freehand. You want to sort of break it down into easier jobs rather than trying to tackle it at the really fine level straight away. If I'm painting freehand, I'm also going to be trying to break the work into its sort of main geometric areas. Paint shapes rather than pure detail. Okay, where you really want the segments to be seen, you can kind of just come in and cut those with the black as well. Final highlight with any sort of metallic surface is going to end up being white. I like this to be fairly dark, but I want to have a bit of glint in there. So I'm going to go back over with some white specks, and also with the pale grey blue in some areas as well, just to redefine that pre-final highlight. So you'll see me switch between them a little bit as I work here. Have both on my palette, going to water them down a little bit to make them easier to work with, but I don't want them so watered down that they're going to flow. I'm still using a size 1 brush here. Every so often I'll switch to my fine detail, but I find this one is still sufficient with that fine tip like we talked about in previous videos. Just coming in and grabbing some of these edges that I really wanted to be brighter, just with that pale grey blue. And really just sticking a little spot highlight more than anything. I also want to kind of get some of that segmentation showing up a little bit better. So paint across the main line of the cabling a little bit there too. Pull that segmentation out. So here's the finished cabling under the arm here. You can see the emerald hasn't really had a massive impact on the colour of the piece. It's more there to give a bit of a subtle hint of something other than just, essentially greys. It also helps tie in the eye pieces and other glowing sections on these models, because that uses the emerald as the glow colour as well. I've been fairly subtle with some of these highlights, trying to make certain cables pop out more than others to give you an idea of the overall shape in the cabling under there, rather than going nuts on it. If it is under the arm, it is going to be in a bit of shadow.